So today we're about macros, and we have both input and report macros that we're going to discuss today. A lot of information to cover, but the macros are really useful, especially input macros if you have a venue you use frequently that you have a long entry for. You can put in a macro and involve lines. It's also great for those vendors you use very infrequently, so you remember how you coded it last time. And then for your macros, just ensure some unifying in your reports. So we'll go over all of the macros and how you can use them to make your entry easier and more effective. You can use a macro, an input macro, for any of the entries accounting tabs. So for a check, deposit, journal, investment entries, payables, or receivables. And there's a couple different ways in a new macro. First, I'm going to use a check. Open up a check here. And if you have an entry that you do all the time, we'll make this entry a lot. You only make it the first time, and then you can just save the macro. So if it was a labor entry, you could have it as your regular labor amount, and then figure their stuff here. I don't know what this is. I'm making up numbers, so they're not going to add up right here, but that's okay. If you have MSR or entry like something like this, that's you do quite a bit. You could go ahead and put it in. We'll just try and make this up as I go. I apologize. Okay. So once you have your entry done, and something you want to view, check this box up here that says Save Entry as a Macro. And as soon as I hit Save, it's going to ask me to name the macro. Call this monthly. And click OK. That does is the next time, I got to clear all the way out to reset that. The next come in here for a check and say it's the next month. We're on 5/25. We'll pretend here. Put in visitor on either F8 on your keyboard is a shortcut, or you can click Select Macro, and it comes right to the vendor. And then I can use if I want the monthly or the monthly expense macro. Amount changes from month to month. You can always put in the check up here, and it's going to adjust the lines. I'll show you first. Pull up exactly how we saved it. We have a dollar amount here, and all the deductions are exactly the same. That really well. But as I said, you can also pull it up, even if it changes a little bit month to month. You can still hitting in vendor, and then either clicking on Select Macro or 8. Taking that monthly expense, and I type in a dollar amount over here. Now my dollar amount here to 800, and it just changed each of these lines. And the show as the original entry was saved. If it goes ratios or something like that. So another great way to use this macro on a monthly basis is for maybe utility that you split up between personal use and maybe crops, livestock, like maybe an electric bill, and you allocate by percent to different areas of your operation. You could save that, and every month you just come pick up your macro and have all the same ledger accounts, centers, and divisions. So it's great for those longer entries where you have a lot of ledger accounts, center, and division combinations. It will you'll even save your description and your quantity if I had those in there. Anything that you input will be saved on your macro. So it's just a quick way to make sure you get everything coded correctly on those, like I said, those entries that you put in, either monthly or maybe only those annual ones are even harder to remember sometimes. So it's a great time saver. Another way to put them in, if you or you need to edit or update your macro list, here to setup and a king, and then macros. What this is, it's a list of all the macros that you have, or if you don't have, you can start adding here. But you can do them if they're old macros that you don't use anymore, or you can edit them. If you click on change, it shows you the macro. There is welding, repair, rent, and animals, and you had some different ledger accounts there. You could change it from a check. Maybe this is going to go from a check to an AR. I could change that and then resave it and update it. And when you have APs and ARs and checks and deposits, you can always use the corresponding macros for either one. So if you normally write a check and you have a macro saved for a check, but you come to an entry and all of a sudden you're putting it as an AR, you could always, the macro will still show up on your AR entry. So those are kind of interchangeable. I can also add a brand new entry and ask copy something over if I want to start from scratch. I'm just going to start from scratch. And it has a generic entry screen here where I can pick what kind of entry I want it to be. Just so maybe I have a macro or corn sales and your vendor. If you don't know your vendor is going to be like for corn sales, if you have several vendors, you have to put a vendor there. I'll show you how it works. And you don't have to put a dollar amount, but you could pick your ledger accounts here. So I could do corn sales and get it ready for the upcoming year. Maybe I had, we're just going to pretend it's on 1998 here. I'm going to pick Jones Corn, 98. You could pick a dividend, again, over the dollar amount. And this could be sales. But then maybe it always had a line for chop, so I pick end line and I go after, so I hit no. And you could pick what lines you usually have here. So we can do storage and drying. And say we're ready to go for the upcoming harvest and sales season. Have that on there. So this would work if I saved that. Come in here. We're going to do a deposit. So back again here to my macros. Because I didn't have a vendor on it, it's going to come down here under the line that says vendor not on list. I pick my corn deposit. I put in maybe a total dollar amount here. Okay. Now it's asking what vendor it is, so I have to pick a vendor here at some point in time. And then come down here and say what my corn sales was. And dollar amounts. Everything else is already there, so it's a really quick, easy way to put in those sales. There's lots you can use the macros here for input. But again, if you had a macro you weren't using and it was just in your way, you could always just delete them from the screen as well. This is where you have to delete them. So I can hit it and just click on delete. And always save. So those are your macros. Macros, there's a little more entailed there. The single report that we have, there's not a single report that you couldn't do this for. When you're looking at the report screens, the macros show it the three little dots in front of them. So this monthly reconciliation is a macro, where register reconciliation is an actual report. So we can create, we'll use a defined report. This is the way to do it. Your date written in your ledger accounts. Set all your sales, like sales accounts here. We're just going to do commodity sales here, crop sales. So I pick my range. You could do this for specific centers, if you're only going to do it for like your current years, I could just pick my two centers to do it for. You could pick a specific division if you wanted. I only have one division. You want to have date cash exchange or recap options. I'm going to recap by center. I'm going to use option 1, and I want cash tax. And so my parameters set right here, and then check this box or this little radio button here. It says Save as New Macro. And then I click OK, and we'll call this crop sales. I like to put numbers in here like years, so maybe it would say crop sales 2016. And fine if that's what you want to do, and maybe you had one for 15 and 16. You're trying to keep things separate. Absolutely, you can do that, and you can get rid of those and keep those from cluttered up and keep those up to date if you need to. You could also do something generic, crop sales to update your date as necessary. I'm gonna go ahead, OK, and it's going to run the report. And this happens to be a blank report because I don't have any sales. But as soon as a lot of people like to come and close this report with the X. If you close the report with the X, it's not going to save the report macro. You have got to hit this close button down in the bottom for it to say macro. So I'm going to hit close. I got to close my report menu to reset that report menu. But the next time I come in here under user-defined reports, I have that option of crop sales. I have it, and you can see it can all of my date ranges and ledger accounts in their division, everything like I did. For some reason this wasn't working, it wasn't pulling up the information I thought it would, or I need to change a date, you can easily do that. I could change this to the future. So if I thought I was going to be set for this specific example, if I was going to sell it through maybe the spring of 17, I could definitely change this to 06/30/2017. Choose Update Macro, click OK, let it run, and close out the report. And then again, if I come in here, I have an updated date there for me. Okay. So it's a screen very similar to the input macros, where you can add and delete and change your macros. And that button's here right on the side. It says Set Up Report Macros. And it brings all of the macros that I have. Here's a crop sales one. It's there what type of report it is. So this is crop sales a transaction plus report, and then it says over here the type is user defined. I have some smart breeder reports as well that you can put here. So add ones, you can change them as need be. I can sign and click on change. Brings up my parameter screen. So maybe I want to make this for the whole entire year. And click OK. And once I set the screen, that's going to be updated for me. Same, I could click on Add. Ask, do I copy something? I'm going to hit No. I'm going to start from complete scratch here. You want to call it. I'm just going to call it Test. Enter. Pick what report you want it to be on. So you touch with your transaction plus. As of report you have here, let's just do a trial balance. Hit enter. Some trial balance here, and my exit, and it's going to have that there. If I come again, close this report screen again, or did something wrong on that last screen. I apologize. What did I do? It's not. There we go. Oh, it's try balance sheet here. It doesn't like that for some reason on that trial balance. Change. It should be pop here in just a moment. Screen I won't. Sorry, I'm trying to get muted there. So where am I at here? Okay. I hit change, and sorry why that change button wasn't working a moment ago. You could change whatever you wanted to here with the balance sheet parameters. You could update just the date for it if you need. Click OK, and then exit. Exit out of that screen, but then I have that annual balance sheet there that I changed. Also delete, so if I went, there's two macros here that don't have any names on them. I could go back in here and delete those. That's these two lines. Ask me if I want to delete. Ask me if I want to delete. Yeah, I can delete whatever macros here that I need to delete. Again, if I go to the reports and come back in, and they're gone. Now with macros, this can get this report screen can get really long and really cumbersome to navigate around. So we do also have the option for the Setup User-Defined menu to allow what you want to show, what reports you want to show there. Choose Build Standard, and then you can come through and you can delete. So if you never use Schedule F, I could highlight on Schedule F and choose to delete it. If I use, I don't know, you can delete it. You can here and pick what you want to see and not see. And then save. Let's get a couple of these other ones gone here. If I check the checkbox right here, that's user-defined report. Right now, the Schedule F is showing. I click here, and it's gone. And it just kind of narrows down what reports you can see. So it's handy if you don't have AP and AR. I clicked on the wrong one. You could get rid of those reports down here and not to see anything there. Okay. So the macros, deleting necessary macros, old macros, and this user-defined report, you can really narrow down what you see here. So you don't have to always be looking and scrolling through a lot of reports there if you don't need them. And then goes along with macros that I wanted to point out is the user-defined help. I'm just going to check this tab all the way back. And this is a lot with macros. That's why I bring it up. It is a different, I guess, a little bit section of the program, but I think it works really well with macros to remind you what they're for. And these little reminders of what's going on, and I can add a new one here. And that it's under Setup, Accounting, up and User-Defined Help. And I'll show you how I use these with my macros. Pick if it is input macro, it says TA plus input macro right here. Pick my macro that I wanted the, it's like a note that's going to pop up. I'll just pick this one here. It's to vendor Sarah Dixon, and it's the one I called monthly. And I put a note here, and I could say use for payroll. And click OK. And then save it. So then we're in here to my row. It has H behind that macro, which means that there's a help file attached. And so I hide it, and then I click F1 on my keyboard. Hotkey F1. And just for this little note, and you have lots more room here if you needed to put any more notes here. So if you have macros or if you're using this, you use FBS and you get like you have off help in, summer help in, you might want to put some memos on your macros to help them what they're used for, and change it here if need be, if you need to update something, and how to use it. But they know that H in brackets means there is a note there from you, or from whoever's putting it in. So I left a note there, and then just teach you to hit F1 on the keyboard to to bring up that note. Used on input macros and report macros. Again, you can come here and add or delete if necessary. Unmute everybody to open it up for questions. Okay. Questions? Everybody's been quiet the last couple weeks. Okay. Raising questions, it does end the webinar. The new webinar schedule should be coming out sometime for Wednesday, so keep your eye open for the newsletter. The new webinar schedule will be posted on our website as well. If you have any suggestions for upcoming webinars, May's are set, but open for June suggestions. Make sure you email me or call me with what webinar suggestions that you'd like to see, and I'll try to accommodate. Otherwise, have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.
Hey, Sarah.